doing a, I don't know how long a video. Maybe it's more than one subject. Maybe, who knows. Anyway, just for people who watch this video, I am a little disappointed. Too many people participate. I mean, I made a little commenty thing, and nobody's using it. It seems like a pretty good thing just for trying anyway. Anyway, I won't complain. Whatever. Such is life on the obscure internet, which sort of relates. Okay, so I'll post a link below. It's the only place I'll post a link because I'm really not sure of the ethics of it. I was watching some blog TV the other night. Somebody was supposed to be in there, what's her name, and she wasn't, and so, Amazing Atheist was there, so I said, what the hell? And so I recorded like an hour or whatever of it. So it's part him and then part that, the Dash Phil guy or whatever is the douche Bill, the douche, whatever his name is. And, it really is, it's pretty pitiful blog TV, for entertainment goes. It's kind of silly. But it's got that human thing. It's like watching chimpanzees or something. Although I think I'd probably like watching chimpanzees better because, you sort of expect them to, like, piss in their mouth or something. And when humans are doing it, it's kind of like, ooh, that was a little gross. So, yeah, the Amazing Atheist plays with his stomach and, I mean, just, sleeps a couple of times. And then the douche guy, he was ragging on Thunderfoot, and, it was okay, but it was just like, inane jabber. So it wasn't worth much. Yeah, DJ picks his nose a lot still, too. It's really like, what the fuck am I watching this? Anyway, I mean, you expect that from, like, a gorilla. But anyway, so yeah, whatever. I mean, it's public, so I guess there's no, conflict. I really didn't talk during it. I just recorded it, So I probably should have made some commentary, and then it would be different. But anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. Enough on that subject. It's just weird. Blog TV is weird. So I guess it's sort of interesting just as a weird. I ought to just go there once a week maybe and just see what the weirdness is. Anyway, so then again, I'll remind people the contests, camera thing. Don't have one right here, but you know what they look like. A little metal-y camera. Anyway, I have one of the old versions here. These little tiny screen, stupid colors on it. I use this for my macro stuff. Anyway, so what else? Oh yeah, background images. If somebody wants to do background images, the kind that, whatever, you can pull a bunch of them will blend together kind of thing. Even solid images, if you want to do a bunch of them that kind of go together with each other, that aren't too preposterously huge, that I can rotate into the background. I just think I'll do different themes and all that kind of stuff. So if you like doing that kind of stuff, no prizes involved or anything for this. It's just, whatever. I guess post an email to the Inmendum channel on YouTube or email me at this website. Think of a name. Anyway, I should get here. Whatever. Some guy offered help with the website, and it's nice that somebody would offer. I mean, I had a thing arranged with the Pointless, but it just didn't work out. He got stuck doing other shit and all that kind of crap, so didn't go anywhere. So, I really don't want to go down that road again. It just gets, no point in doing business with people on the internet. Sort of. But anyway, and then, what was the other thing? Yeah, but, the guy's, like, insulting. He's like, oh, your website is the worst website in the world. And, and if you're going to say that, that's fine. I mean, you can critique the website and say it sucks. But you should do it with some sort of qualification. Like, give me a link to something you've done so I can go look at it and say, oh, yeah, I would want my website to look like that pile of shit. I mean, just sort of for comparison purposes. So, anyway. Yeah, still got to do the legal video. Haven't done that yet. So, anyway. And this video is going to be about Fred eventually. But I was watching, I'm just bouncing around the tubes here. Keep track of them. In here. Alright, there's the Fred notes. Okay, probably should have read them first. But anyway, I was just, and Pyro was making a video. And so he titled it, It All Adds Up to Some Zero. Now, I've called life a zero-sum game, but that's if you perfect it, you get to zero, right? If you do everything just right, you'll have a zero product because you've done an experiment that didn't cost anything, so it was free, so it's an okay experiment. Because you're not accomplishing anything. You're not going to build anything of any lasting value, nothing of intrinsic value, nothing of substantial value. You're just scratching itches, and other kinds of scratchables. And that's all you're doing. And if you're lucky, you get through life easy. And if you're lucky. And that's all. That's your win. You got through it with less damage. And even that's a concept here that's a little bit frightening because people's standards just keep changing. What people have as an expectation just changes. It's completely fudgeable. And so Pyro's almost talking like, well, it doesn't matter. If I added another 4 or 5 world wars to human history, like had the Romans and somebody else have a big war and like, 1 million people die in it and really horrible, and I add a few more horrors to history, it's all zero sum to him. To him, the zero sum is it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you do it, because somehow it all comes out okay in the end or something. That somehow it all balances out, and that's sort of what he's implying. But now he's getting into a discussion about physics and all this kind of crap, which has absolutely nothing to do with making any sense of real value in the real world, which sort of gets to the video by conference report. But I'll play some of this first. I haven't heard this part, but let's see if he says something reasonable.
Afraid of. I'm on this cliff side, and I would rather not be afraid and relax than climb up that mountain with my broken leg to get out. I just happened to watch this I Shouldn't Be Alive, a couple episodes of that. At that point, you can really let go of your fear and not worry about what you're going to lose. And I find that very effective as a lot.
Whatever. I mean, this is just psychology stuff. Yeah, of course, there's certain emotions that are completely unproductive. I mean, they really don't save your life. They really don't do you much any good anymore because we're too intelligent for the emotions. So if you can get rid of your fear, and if you can get rid of guilt, and you get rid of all those other kind of little worry things and all that kind of shit, then great. Okay, more power to you. The more Mr. Spock-like you become in your approach to living, the more effective you're going to be. So great if you can get rid of that unnecessary stuff. But this just kind of ignores the real conversation about what a quality of life is, what life is. And life is about traumas that aren't about your hysterical emotional reactions. They're about traumas that are really unpleasant to experience. They're physically unpleasant experiences.
Passage effort of, dealing with life when the fear is the oppressive thing more than the danger. And in my life, I found this, to be really helpful. I mean, I can think of an example in my 20s when I started to get nervous about driving my, beat-up cars, 5 hours every other weekend up into the woods. And I was going to do it, but I just would panic a little that it was going to break down this time, or did I have money?
Yeah, so now he's going in a whole new wacky direction. Look, but you can take this to an extreme also. Okay, this just becomes an excuse for insensitivity and irresponsibility. So this sounds a little bit like, well, just whitewash your way through life. Just ignore the practical limitations and pretend you can fly and then jump out the window. I mean, this doesn't go anywhere in principle. This is bullshit.
Deal with getting tow, or deal with buying parts on the road, or I worry about all of this. And I found I was worrying more about it than was warranted, because when I did break down, I just dealt with it. And so I just should have had the idea.
Yeah, and so, right, just dealing with it means you're a woman and you're alone in the road and, Freddy Krueger shows up, you're going to be a little bit fucked. I mean, not in a good way.
Yeah, the fear that it was going to break down was realistic. But so was a belief that it didn't really matter, that, worrying about it all week before the weekend was more stress than not worrying about it. And
duh. I mean, gee, that's a really good observation. It's more stressful to worry than not to worry. That's right. I guess that's why the retards don't have the coronaries.
And just dealing with it if it happened. Especially since if you worry about it all week, you still have to deal with it when it happens. That worry, which is to me related to fear, doesn't necessarily help.
Yeah, like I said, this is pretty sloppy. Okay, there certainly again this has nothing to do with philosophy. So again, this should be labeled something else. This is about psychology and ways of living and all this kind of tripe. And it's not about defining our reality or defining the truth of real value. It's about the fact that, yeah, well, if you're in a feudal circumstance, you might as well start whistling a happy tune because you're worrying about it isn't going to fix it. Duh, 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 duh.
And so that's in a minor situation. In a more major situation, where you've fallen off the trail and you're on the side of a cliff, it might be good not to, don't isolate yourself off from the fear. Feel a little fear. That fear could motivate some survival instincts, but at the point where it becomes counterproductive.
Yeah, right, but defining that line is the whole fucking point, isn't it? Now, I had one incident where I did a lot of roofing and stuff like that, and there was one time when I actually almost fell off a roof, right? And I mean, it came real, like I'm going back, and I barely hung on to doing the just fall straight backward off of a roof. Now, that one incident, scared the shit out of me. But it was really good because that is the practical risk, and I was being a little reckless, and so now I'm more careful because I've had that little fear shoved into my consciousness. And if I lived without that fear, I would go back to being reckless, and I would increase my odds of someday ending up being all fucking foobarred on the ground.
You need to remember what the whole game is for. And that maybe...
Yeah, the whole game is for, and that's the point, and that's what you don't get to in this video, and this title is just a big fat canard, and it doesn't have anything to do with anything, and this is all bullshit. If you're just here and you think it's all a worthwhile game, yeah, then just live like an asshole, right? Just because you already pretended the game is worth playing. So if you're going to pretend the game is worth playing when it isn't, then you might as well pretend that you're doing a good job playing the game. But it's all pretending. Okay, it's not fear mitigation or living a better life or any of that kind of crap. It's just an illusion you create in your head because you have, abdicated from accepting responsibility and accepting the fact that the whole thing is a big horrible mess, and every step you take has implications that will affect maybe even the destiny of the entire sentient universe.
You shouldn't be afraid of losing it all, but you should be afraid of getting it all back.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, talk in circles. Shouldn't be afraid of losing it all, you should be afraid of getting it all back. Whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Pointless. Alright, enough of that playing video shit. That's just a horror sometimes. So anyway, conference report. Yeah, I made a few videos. I'll change the light just for the hell of it. Maybe it'll fix things, improve things, help things. I don't know. We'll just find out, won't we? I don't know. It's probably a bad idea. It doesn't feel like crap, so it probably look like crap, but it doesn't really matter. Alright. So we made a couple of videos, and I really didn't like them. But one of them was about this value in the universe thing, or assessing value. And it was about a debate he saw between, an atheist and a Christian, and how the word objective and subjective would be used in relationship to the word morality and ethics, and ultimately value. I think there's a simple point here. Yes, if you believe, absolutely, like you're completely convinced, let's use that word, that there is a God, then obviously God has a value prescription. Okay? There's just no way an intelligence who can create a universe and do it on purpose wouldn't have some purpose, and that purpose will be the definition of the value. And there'll be little things, the do's and the don'ts, and they'll be pretty absolute and clear. And so, yeah, it makes it for a simple equation. God says so, and that's all you got to know. God will tell you what is worth what. in what proportion, and you don't have to think about it. Now, if you're not a believer in a God who ordained this thing, then you have to look at the universe and find this value thing. And so that the implication is that somehow now it's no longer objective because somebody isn't saying what the value is. There isn't a God, an authority. Well, the authority is the material world. The authority is the facts. Okay, we don't need anything more than that. The authority of physics tells us what the Earth is, you know, and tells us the function of gravity, and it displays all of that. We see it, and that is the authority. The authority is our own senses and our own capacity to model and understand the world. And out of those facts, we glean the facts of this thing called value. And it's just no point in using morality is a stupid word. Ethics is a little closer, but that's still more connected to social contract kind of stuff, which has nothing to do with absolutes. But there is such a thing as the absolute value, and it exists in the world. It is not something we make up. It isn't something we define, or not define, that we establish. It exists with or without us. The value underlies everything we do. It is always there, and we can either get it right or we can get it wrong in terms of how we understand the value. So the value is just relationship. Just as I was pointing out in the other two videos, that logic is in the world. It isn't something we make up. It's something we discover. We discover relationship. And the hope is we accurately define it and describe it and model it. And so I guess that's where I want to get to, is in this conversation that it's about the accurate model, and how do we establish when a model is accurate? What are the credentials? And I guess part of that is having more explicit language, because part of it, you can't even function in the conversation if we have words like universal, you know, versus objective, subjective. I mean, there's too many words. And so I'm saying, like, well, okay, what's the point, though? The point is to say whether something is absolute, whether it's true, whether it is without reasonable argument, beyond a reasonable doubt, I guess, is the standard I have to apply. What other standard do we have? And so we should have a word that you know, we use when we're meaning that what I'm saying is something I'm saying, and I believe it's beyond a reasonable argument. There's no reasonable way you can attack this statement or this piece of argumentation. So that would be an absolute truth that we were defining. And I think there's plenty of absolute truths regarding value that can be established without the need of a God to tell us. We can discover it. We can look at the world and see it. And that's part of what this whole conversation is intending, is just to figure that out. So anyway, he was talking about, what's his name? I can't remember. That atheist guy I generally like, but yeah, he's a little phantasmagorical, who was in this debate. And he was using a word like flourishing, which is a word the conference report has used. And it's a word I would never even go near that word. That's a BS word. I mean, bull subjective by new terminology. You know, what the definition of flourishing is completely fudgeable. Every individual can have a different definition of what it means to flourish. I mean, you could flourish as a Nazi, or you could flourish as a Buddhist, or you could flourish as a lot of different things. So that word doesn't mean anything. All it means is what makes a human being stronger or happier. No, there's got to be a broader context to this word, and so we got to take the word flourish and put it into the real world. And the real world has words like efficiency, economy, productivity, you know, net balance. Those are the words you have to work with. So it's not about flourishing. It's about accomplishing enough to undo whatever you unaccomplish. Okay, what you the goods have to outweigh the bads in terms of what you experience and what you project onto the world, and that's flourishing. If you can manage to get through your life leaving the world a better place for your existence, That's the key, okay? It's not about whether you felt good in your life, or whether you had a good life, or whether, your skeleton was completely replaced by stainless steel bones. That's not flourishing. Flourishing is accomplishing. An accomplishment in this context of a rational discussion of value has to have something to do with your effect on other sentient creatures, because sentience is the source of value, which we've discussed in previous videos. And that's why we've got to nail down some of these premise things, these arguments where we have these premises built into them, about where we do agree. And once we've established these premises, then we can have a conversation. But half the people will deny that the source of value is sentience. Not half, but I don't think anybody can rationally undo that, except for a religious nut who will say, no, the pearly gates are more important than somebody's life, or some kind of bullshit, or somebody's welfare, or somebody dying badly. They even think people should suffer, to demonstrate their love of God, or some other kind of bullshit, which is insane. So how number come into being? Oh, and so you got in the end of this video, you start talking about numbers and all that kind of crap, and that part was sort of accurate, but again, it's the way he phrased it. He made it more confusing than he needed to. But he was basically saying what I was saying about logic, is that all these things are already out there. He was basically saying that mathematics isn't something we make up. It's something that becomes the truth when you have a world of matter and relationship. And so as soon as you have something and you separate the two somethings, you've already created the number two. That just in that physical happening, the invention of two was there in the thing itself, not in it's not some sort of arbitrary or abstract. It's a fact. It's a real material reality, and the relationship of what goes on in the world, we can define what things are, and we can define their relationship to other things, and that's doing logic. And the truth is in the world itself, to be discovered. We're only going to, the whole point is to describe the truth of the circumstance, and the circumstance is the relationship. And when you take all the relationships and you boil them all down, you'll find that they're basically built out of something that is. Whether we can see it or not, we know it is. We know we are conscious. We know we are feeling. It's an is. It's not as materially tangible as other things, but it's an is, like magnetism or gravity or some other force. It is an is. It's there. And it's got to be understood, because now it changes the dynamics of the system, because now a value is injected. Alright, and then he was also talking about how we, people are just full of shit. You ask them, are you happy? And of course they're going to say, oh yeah, I had a great life, because they don't want to, what are they going to, admit failure? No, people don't want to do that. So yeah, they're going to always think they're succeeding, even when they're failing. And it's so much easier when something's in the past to, kind of whitewash it, gloss it over, say, well, it was bad, but yeah, this is cool chocolate cake I'm eating today, so this cool chocolate cake is okay. That's well, I won't really put them on the scales, because I don't want to do that, because I'm going to realize that that wasn't worth it. I think if those miseries of the past were sitting right in front of you tomorrow, there'd be a whole different equation. But we know the past doesn't have a threat to hurt us. The past isn't going to come back and bite you, as the phrase goes, in any real sense. And so you can talk about it like it was nothing, but again, if it was in front of you, it would be something. And you wouldn't be playing this, it's all okay game. So again, but that gets into the whole conversation about this psychology feature that comes to asking the individual what their opinion of the value is. Again, you can't do that. It's like asking the heroin addict about heroin. Unless the heroin addict is going to be really clinical and be really careful and scientific about how they describe what they're going through, it's just going to be bullshit, okay? Because all he's going to know is me wanting. Me want, me want. And we know what human beings are. We know they're afraid of death. We know they're afraid of the end because their egos don't want to accept that, what, I'm not worth it? Yeah, you know, I don't get to stay? I mean, it's an insult to them. So, you know, they're not going to appreciate that for its full meaning. And they're just living off of momentum. And the momentum is created by the desire. And the desire is just a part of it. And so it's just a treadmill feeding the legs walking feed the treadmill. And it's just you know, it is a hamster in its little fucking wheel. And that's all people are doing. If they stop, they're going to feel like the wheel's going to keep moving and they're going to get bounced around. So they just keep running. And it's pointless and stupid because they don't know how to get out. And they're afraid to get out because getting out is a concession to failure. And they don't want to concede to failure. They don't want to. It's that simple. It has nothing to do with the truth. So you can't ask these eyewitnesses anything about their life because they can't honestly evaluate their life. Alright. So that's probably enough of a video. So anyway, yeah, your last 3 videos they were good videos, but they just weren't, I mean, it almost seems like you're not watching my videos because it seems like you're using language that I've sort of indicated we should probably avoid. And so now, you know, we're just back in the same shithole because these words just aren't going to work. Using objective and subjective in any other context, but subjective meaning emotional and objective meaning factually accurate. In any other, using the words in any other way is just going to defeat conversation. Using those words, I mean, it can't be done. They're too flawed. And absolute versus universal, you might stand a chance. But universal ends up being universal to human beings. There's no point in saying universal because people think they are the universe. So if something is universally true, if most human beings believe it, and that's a perversion of the word. So that word has to be thrown out. So again, we're back to like absolute. It's sort of, in my opinion, sort of a safe word. So they should be talking about absolute morality, absolute ethics, absolute value, and quit fucking around. What's the fucking truth, regardless of what any asshole thinks? Yeah, that's the way it works. What's the fucking truth? Yeah. Alright, till next time. And such.